We are live. This is our market update. Got the clicker below. Going over active properties. We haven't hit that 4,000 mark. We're at 3,600. Still early in the year, but there we go. How are rates looking right now, David?
Ooh, wow. I wish I saved the Wall Street Journal article that was front page that said rates are over 7%. And why is it like this? And then in a minute, if you want, you can pull up that Mortgage News Daily site that we show all the time. You can see, on that site, they're quoting average rates at 7.125, which is, it's higher than what a good lender can get you. But full disclosure, on that site, that's a majority of your retail lenders, your banks, your credit unions, and all your brick and mortars that have all those, carrying costs that they have to carry over and then share with you as a consumer. So if you scroll up there to the top on the 30-year fixed, look at that, 7.125, man, which is funny because all the loans I locked in this week were all at 6.625 and 6.75, add 0.125 for the APR, but those were all 0-point loans. And look at the top corner. It's like, look at the 52-week high, 7.5. The interesting thing is everyone thinks rates are going to plummet all of a sudden, which if you've been watching this show, you would know me and Vinnie have been talking about. If you really want to know when rates are going to go down, you really need to start watching the unemployment rate, because the unemployment rate has to increase in order for the Fed to do anything, to then have it carry over to the bond market, to then have it carry over to the mortgage market. So it's like we said before, this first quarter going to be very volatile with interest rates, and you better be working with a lender that's following financials where you can time it and lock it in, because I think you're going to stay up, in that 7% mark for the first quarter. It's ugly.
It's also on the buying side, interesting market, because you have some properties that are going really fast. We have, if you look at the clicker below, we have, let's see, 3,600 properties active, 1,600 pending. So that puts us a little over, two months, right, of market inventory on the market, if all the properties sold, which is not the case. So let's say 2.5 months, right? We were at 2 a couple months ago. And there's really is, and I know I've been saying this, for the last couple of months, but it feels like even more so. Some agents that are getting aggressive, they're pricing it to sell. So you're getting bidding wars and the property is going for higher. Other ones are pricing it higher and the properties are sitting.
And they're doing that strategy. You can't say it, but I'll say it. It's called hope and pray. They're hoping and praying it sells for the wrong list price, which is not going to happen. They're consumer smart. And, there's a lot of smart agents out there like you who will look at it and go, wow, the property's way overpriced. It's not going to sell for that.
Yeah. Reality is if you're buying a property, you really should have your realtor put together comps after you've seen the property. If you're going to put an offer on the property, understand, okay, what's the property actually worth? It's all relative. Okay, well, we've seen the stats where it's like, oh, properties are selling at 1% under list, or property are selling at 2% under list, or whatever that updated numbers. I gotta look at that. But reality, there's a variance of what this property is going to sell for compared to what that property is going to sell for. And based on the price point too, the higher you go in price point, the list to sold price changes drastically. If you're under $1 million, under 900,000 for a detached property, you're probably going to sell above list. That's more than likely.
Oh man, I'm sorry. Beep, temporary interruption. I just got a notice that there's a fire on Gilman Drive, which is not far from my house in La Jolla.
Oh yeah, that happened. I got that notice about like an hour ago. Also too, if you guys need a place to keep up with the fires and all that kind of stuff that's going on, Watch Duty. It's an app. Yeah, Watch Duty. Also to go back, you'll see I did an interview yesterday with a fire chief. Kind of talked about things you can do to get your property prepped in case of a fire. Also, if in case of a fire, what to do when that happens when you're evacuating. And some of the stuff was pretty interesting. I mean, there's something about blinds that I wasn't even aware about, or to keep them open or keep them closed when you leave the property, stuff like that. It was kind of interesting. So go back and go watch that because, I mean, it's windy times. You got to be safe out there.
Wow. I'm sorry. I just pulled that up, and the fire is not contained, and that's in La Jolla, and that is not far from my house, actually. But
yeah, there's a couple that popped off recently in the last hour. There's one in Otay that popped off, one in La Jolla, and then there's one other one. I forgot where that was. San Diego.
Well, we could make bad jokes about the market being on fire, but that is not true.
No, anyway. we are not going to make those jokes.
No,
anyways, if you have questions, please reach out to myself or David. Subscribe to this platform. We come on here usually once a week, sometimes sometimes every other week. Also, too, if you have availability, join us. We've done stuff at WeWorks to one-on-one conversations. If you just want a direct call, feel free to reach out to us. I'm gonna actually have this go.
You know, Vinnie, before we're going through this fast, have you noticed that properties are now selling to 97% of their list price? And I know we touched on this before, but that means that, explain that more to the public. What that really means is, if the real properties are selling at 97% of list price, what does that mean to someone that looks at a house priced on the web or Zillow, or the agent brings to them? What does that mean?
I mean, that's a wiggle room, right? So if you're talking about $1 million property, it's selling for on the median, right, $970,000, right? So about $30,000 under list price. Now, again, not all property are the same. So if you go across the board, because again, like we just talked about, people price their property sometimes low to get those bidding wars. Also, something too that for the older people watching here, I actually had this conversation today where he didn't have income to show for the purchase. But one thing I brought up to him was a reverse mortgage purchase, right? So if you have the funds to put down, but you're not making a monthly, one avenue is a reverse mortgage purchase. We've talked about it before, buying down the rate. I mean, there's so many things that are coming about. You really need to talk to a lender, talk to a realtor, trusted one, to know what's actually doable and possible.
Yeah, that right now, this next, I don't know, I've also saw in the news that, the Fed's getting a lot of pressure that it wants to lower rates to help the housing market, but unfortunately that's not going to work. So if you're watching the news and seeing, pressure being applied to the Fed and Jerome Powell to lower rates, that's not going to be happening, because right now we don't really we're not in a position to lower rates lower again. We need to wait some time.
Yeah, if we lower rates, I mean, if we got down to, let's say, 5s again,
woo!
I mean, even though it doesn't seem like that drastic, especially when we were a couple of years ago, we were in the 3s. But you'd see this detached property. I mean, the big divide is going to happen in the relatively lower market, and under $1 million detached property, that market is going to get crazy hot. Now, the market they'll get warmed up a little bit is going to be the higher end properties, but I really think that that $800,000-$900,000 property is going to be the one that's going to go crazy if inventory and interest rates go down. What is this?
I don't want to put that on the screen, Vinnie, but I want to mention to everyone out there watching us, if you want to reach out to Vinnie or myself and you want to know where the top 10 fastest growing cities in the U.S. that you could potentially invest in, either text or email me or Vinnie. We have a link from all the data on CoreLogic that came out that shows you some of the fastest growing cities in the U.S., which, sometimes you have to go outside your safe zone and invest in other states as well for cash flow. So if you're interested in that, reach out to us. We're happy to share the data with you. But it is very interesting what's listed as the top fastest growing cities for investing.
See you guys. That was our 10 minutes. Have a great one. Bye.